Finished with it.
Okay,
So, like, a
so
couple
then
words.
the part that we didn't talk about was women in the war, which was, this is almost exactly the same as the reading you guys got. Some women would just fully disguise themselves as men and go fight in the war, and you could get away with it because remember the uniforms are big and baggy. It's not like today where there's barracks, where there's showers and stuff like that. You cleaned up by taking a washcloth and kind of washing your hands and face, and that was it. So everybody was stinky and gross, and it worked. There were numerous cases of women blending in and fighting the war. This one is an all-women unit, and what they're used for is they're actually protecting a factory that makes rifles. And it used to have an all-male security force, but they took those guys, sent them into the war, and these ladies are trained to guard the factory. So barriers are broken. Women take roles that aren't normally reserved to them. If you remember from the video, Claire Barton helps found the American Red Cross. Women in nursing was not a thing. Women in the war, or women in nursing was not a thing. And now if you look at nursing, it's predominantly women, right? So things change. There's also a bunch of women who are spies during the war. There's some pretty famous ones that get some pretty good pieces of information and pass it along to the other side. You know, troop movements and where this army's gonna be at this time so they can ambush them, stuff like that. All right, this guy, Ambrose Burnside. Sideburns are named after him. I know, he's very, very attractive, right?
Yeah.
Here's the crazy thing. Somebody married him. So somebody thought that was attractive.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So, but actually him wearing it like this, it actually turns into a fashion trend for a while. And if you were like a trend-setting guy, you grew that. I think it's disgusting.
That's.
So, what about Ambrose Burnside? He replaces George McClellan as our general because McClellan's way too cautious. Guess what the problem's gonna be with Burnside other than his horrible facial hair?
He's not.
He actually, when I look at him, I always think of the Lorax. But
Don't do the Lorax like that. What did he do?
He is too aggressive. He's gonna have one battle. It's gonna be the Battle of Fredericksburg. And what he does is he does repeated head-on attacks up a hill at the heart of the enemy. So they do it the first time, our guys get defeated, they come back, he reorganizes the army, so what's he do the second time? The exact same thing. We're gonna go up the hill, attack in the same spot, and he ends up losing 13,000 soldiers at the Battle of Fredericksburg.
How many times
So-
did he send them back?
He sent them in the same spot twice. And then they lost so many that he just didn't have enough guys to do it again. So Lincoln replaces him because he's worried that he's not gonna have an army left. So he gets replaced with this guy, a guy called Fighting Joe Hooker, who looks like in this picture he just woke up. In my opinion, it looks like he just rolled out of bed.
It's like a huge calorie.
He got colic, yeah. So he replaces him. He loses at Chancellorsville, even though he has twice as many men as the Confederates. They just out-generaled them. They put the men in better spots and had better fields of fire, and they beat us. So the Confederates win Chancellorsville, but they lose because they lose Stonewall Jackson. This is the battle where Stonewall Jackson is accidentally shot by one of his own men. He's out riding on his horse, checking where the army is, we're in the right spot, and there's a guy out on sentry duty. He's a guard. And the way it's supposed to work is you're supposed to yell, who goes there? And he yells this twice, and Stonewall Jackson never heard it. And on the third one, if you yell and they don't say anything, you're supposed to assume they're an enemy and shoot them. And this guy yells, no response, and he shoots them and he hits Stonewall Jackson right in the arm. And they have to amputate it. And this is actually a picture of the headstone. It says, arm of Stonewall Jackson. They buried his arm. And then the army's always on the move, and it's on the move, and they end up getting something like 40, 50 miles away, and the infection had taken hold, and then Stonewall Jackson dies. So his arm and his body are not buried in the same spot. It's pretty weird. It's kind of turned into a Civil War oddity tourist site. People go visit Stonewall Jackson's arm. So even though we lose Chancellorsville, we actually get a big win because Stonewall Jackson dies, and he is such a good general. And it just destroys the morale of the Confederates. I mean, if he died in battle, that was one thing, but he died by getting shot by one of his own men. That's pretty horrible. Gettysburg, we've gone over a ton. It's in Pennsylvania. Lee is in the north trying to get a victory. Pickett's charge was the last all-out attack. It doesn't go well. This just different stats about the wars and stuff. So Gettysburg loses a ton of people. There are commemorative quarters that came out a few years ago. You might see some of these in circulation. They're on different battles of the Civil War. So I got Gettysburg here and Vicksburg there. So you'll see those in your pocket every once in a while. Question, Pete?
Do you know what happened to the soldier who shot him?
Nothing happened. It's not like he got punished. He was doing his job. So, Vicksburg, we learned a little bit about that. That was in your background essay on Gettysburg. We laid a siege to it. You guys remember what a siege is? Where you just surround something and cut it off. We ended up sieging Vicksburg for 6 weeks, and they eventually surrendered. And now we control the whole Mississippi River. So we've defeated Robert E. Lee in the north. We control the whole Mississippi River. And you remember from the video, Sherman has captured and burned Atlanta. So the Confederacy's not doing real good. We went over the whole Gettysburg Address, you know what that is. And now finally, we're towards the end of the year, Abraham Lincoln finds a good general. He finds Ulysses S. Grant, and he's gonna lead for the rest of the war, and he's gonna use attrition. This is a word that you should know. He's gonna just, every time he can, he's gonna attack Robert E. Lee. Even if he's not in a good spot. If Lee's got the high ground, it doesn't matter. He's got so many more guys, he's gonna keep attacking them. Attrition is you're gonna grind them down, you're gonna wear them down. He's gonna bleed them dry. He knows every single guy that Robert E. Lee loses, he can't replace. Remember at Gettysburg, Robert E. Lee's army is 75,000. By the time he surrenders at Appomattox Courthouse, his army is 22,000. He just can't replace them anymore. They're just gone. So, and you learned in the video, Sherman's March. One thing the video didn't do a real good job. I love that they talk about they take anything of value, they destroy anything of value. But you made it sound like there's just 2 army columns marching. They're spread out over a 60-mile wide area. And 60 miles wide from Atlanta all the way to the Atlantic Ocean is what they're destroying. So it's not just along this road or that long road, it's a 60-mile wide stretch all the way across Georgia. Yes.
What's that picture of?
Sherman's neckties. Those railroads, what the train rides on, they take them, they start a fire, they lay them on the top so the center gets bright red, and then they bend them around trees. Or they would just leave them on a big stack of wood, and they would, as they would get warm, the ends would droop, you know, because the center. And because they're bent like that, even if you heated them up, you're not going to be able to bend them back 100% straight, so you're wrecking the railroad. Because what they found out is if you just pull the railroad parts, ties off, and throw them in the ditch, you grab a couple guys, they can put it back, boom, the train could be running within an hour or 2. You do this, now you have to literally, you know, make new ones in some foundry somewhere. And it's gonna take your railroad out for weeks. So, it's a smart idea. They're still located. This one is actually a picture of one in the South, and you can kind of see there's a fence around it. So this is one of the original sets from when he did this in 1864. So it's still there. All right, so the end. We have to have a surrender. The official surrender of Lee's army is April 9th, 1865. So that would be, when does the war end? That's the date. Okay? 2 days before that, on April 7th, we take Richmond, Virginia. So remember our plan to win the war, the Anaconda Plan? We cut off all trade into the Confederacy. That's working. Our second part was to take the Mississippi River. We get that with Vicksburg. And now the third part, we get Richmond. Granted, we do it 2 days before they surrender, but we do eventually get all of it. It is the most unbelievably friendly peace terms in history. It is hand over your weapons and go home and live in peace. That's it. And Robert E. Lee marches his army by, they throw their guns on a pile, and that's it. You guys are free to go home. There's only a handful of people that ever get punished from the Civil War. The guy that's in charge of Andersonville, that really bad POW camp, he's gonna face trial because thousands of guys starved to death there. Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, let's be honest, the guy's committing treason. He gets put in jail for just a couple months. A bunch of rich Southerners pool together money and post his bail, and he's out. He's gonna end up getting reelected to office once his state rejoins the Union. Robert E. Lee, you would think maybe he should get punished, right? No, he's gonna end up becoming a president of a college. and have a really nice job there and then retire kind of like a war hero. I mean, he's the leader of the enemy's army, but in American history, he was doing his job and he was good at it, and he doesn't really get punished for it. He kind of becomes a hero in history. So this is a painting of Lee and Grant signing the surrender. If you remember back, that first big land battle, the Battle of First Bull Run, happened on this farm, and the guy that lived on that farm moved because literally a cannonball went through his kitchen and he didn't want his family to be in harm's way. He moved to Appomattox, and this is his house. So he always tells the story, the Civil War started in my yard and ended in my living room. Because it did.
The cannibals.
So, kind of a weird story in history, so. Alright, and then, this is just an interesting map. Every one of these shaded areas is a county where a battle took place during the Civil War. And you see there's not a lot up here. There are a few over here. All of these, though, are battles against Native Americans that took place during the Civil War. So not a single one in Wisconsin. So, and you can see most of it is in Virginia. So, Northern Virginia, because you got Richmond down here and Washington, D.C. up here. So there's going to be a lot of fighting in between that area. So, all right, questions, guys? Yeah.
They're all battle bars, some of them lighter than others.
Because it's color coded by year. So, and the original version was in like nice bright, it'd be like, yellow and orange and red and green and blue, but it's in photocopy and color. All right, get out your Chromebook then, guys.